Hey guys, it's Elena, and today we will be doing a very simple abstract piece in Procreate, and it will have some metallics and play around a little bit with lines up and down and with texture and a minimal color palette. And I will be showing you this using my Painterly brush set for Procreate, and the link to purchase the brushes is in the description down below, and you're also welcome to follow along with any other brushes that you may have in Procreate. We will just go ahead and get started. I'm going to start a new canvas that is 12 by 12 inches at 300 dpi. And I'm just going to lay out a basic shape on this page so I know where my areas of color are going to be and where my white space is going to be. And so I'm going to start out with, I'm using the Van Gogh color palette that comes with the Painterly brush set. And I'm just going to start out with some of the whites and grays, and then I'll add some black areas. So I'll pick this sort of beige gray here. And then in the Painterly brush set, I'm just going to start out using the Master Impressionist brush, and it's a dual color brush, but we're not going to use the dual color effect. We're just going to use one color here, and I'll just start adding some different areas of this white beige color. I'm going to choose this off-white here and the Choppy strokes brush and just keep sort of playing around with this a little bit. And with that same Choppy strokes brush, I'm now going to choose a pure black by double tapping on my color wheel. And I wanted to have just a couple areas of black on here, mostly like here, here, and then down here somewhere. So I'm just going to sort of block out those areas, and then we will start blending things together and adding more accent colors. So those are my main two colors, and I'm going to also be using this pink here, and I will be using this grayish blue and then some golds later on. So using the pink and the grayish blue, I'm just going to add a few dots of color with the same Choppy strokes brush, and then I will use a blender brush to sort of smush it all together. And I think I just want a tiny bit more black here. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to my blender, my smudge tool right here, and tapping that, I can choose from the Painterly brush set, and I'm going to go ahead and choose the dry oil brush from the Painterly brush set as a smudger. And I will be using this brush quite a lot from here on out. So I'm going to just sort of make the lines blend into each other, and I'm going to have an up and down motion for most of this. The idea here is to blend this texture in with the outside texture and sort of remove some of these harsh lines while keeping it realistic. So that's why I'm just kind of dragging things around and just letting some of the texture still peek through. So at this point, I'm going to switch to my brush tool and choose the dry oil brush, and then I'm going to keep going with some white and some of these same colors that I have been selecting up till now. So I'm just adding a few areas that are not in this straight up and downy way so that there's a bit of contrast to the textures here. I'm going to go back to white to just even these out a bit. Just to add a bit of this beige into these messy areas as well. And now I'm going to switch brushes to the brush called Super Dry down here at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to add a bit more texture in the same colors around to both the up and downy sort of texture here and then also the messy areas. I need just a tiny bit more chaos here. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add the metallics. I'm pretty happy with the texture that I've got going on here and the different chaotic areas like they are pretty much. There's a nice contrast between these sort of blobs and then the different streaks of harsh color and then some white space over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a new layer. And then I'm going to, on this first layer, I'm going to add some metallics, and then I'll add one more layer on top of that with more metallics. And so the first metallics I want to do are going to be light ones, like these colors. And I'm going to use the Metallic Strokes brush that also comes in the Painterly brush set. And just strategically add a few areas where there's going to be some metallic blobs. And I'm going to go ahead and choose the gray and the pink and add a tiny bit around these as well. And then I'll put the darker gold in a layer on top. And when you're adding the metallics, you don't want to add them right on top of each other on the same layer because they will get really washed out. So I'm just going to do it next to it so that it will blend in but not overpower the other. I'm going to switch back to the beige and add just a tiny bit more, make it a bit more irregular. Okay, so before I add the next layer, I'm just going to go back to my blend brush, still with the dry oil. And I'm going to blend the edges just a little bit so that it looks a bit more like it blends in with the rest of the piece here. Like a metallic acrylic sort of look. And then I'm going to add one more layer on top of this. And I'm going to choose this sort of, actually I'm going to choose this brownish color down here. And this is going to come out as kind of a burnt gold. And I've got the metallic strokes selected still. And I've got my new layer so that I can add on top of the metallics without making them get washed out. So I'm just going to do the same thing in this bright color, sort of selectively to have a couple of color pops. Because this is a dark color, I can sort of liberally just keep scribbling in the same area to make it get even brighter, and it doesn't get completely washed out because it's quite a dark color to begin with. So now I'm just going to do the same thing with the blend brush, dry oil, and blend all of that in. Make the edges just look a bit more natural. It's okay if some of the metallic goes away so that it starts to look just a bit more like it's blending in here. This one I just decided to do a bit more chaotic. Just see where that takes me. So I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. I'm happy with the fact that there's some white space, it's not completely overwhelming. There's a pop of color, but it's not overwhelming either. I love all the texture, and I feel like this is sort of expressing something to me. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that it was helpful for you and that you can get something out of it, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.